Locality Pay, long-term care, and IRA versus TSP Part 2, all on today's Fednobabble.
This is Fednobabble, where Kevin and Cassie make federal retirement benefits understandable for humans like you. These two don't hold back as they answer questions from the Fed Pilot workshops and webinars, or from questions submitted by you at fednobabble.com.
Hello, welcome Cassie. Welcome to another edition of Fednobabble.
Hello, hello.
Okay.
So, I know we went over the past couple of ones, so we should probably keep it shorter. So let's jump in here.
Yeah, I think it'll be easy, especially with this question. Does the high three include locality pay? What's the answer?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay, that was easy.
That's it.
I'd like to be able to expound on that, but it's okay. Actually, I am going to expound on that.
Oh boy.
And just actually really quickly here. The answer is yes. And I don't think that there is an it depends on this one. I think it is just, I can't think of an instance where it does it. But the follow-up question that I get a lot to this is, okay, well, what happens if I move to another state? Let's say I'm in San Francisco and I get a huge locality pay and then I retire and I move to the middle of nowhere, Montana. Do I get to take that with me? The answer is, again, yes. You just,
No.
you're high. I mean,
Well, you take the high three that includes the locality pay in that location, but you don't take it with you in your current pay there. Like locality pay doesn't follow you to that other position.
But what I'm saying is if they retire in San Francisco, do they get to take all of that retire, and then they move? Yes. Right. Yeah. And then you move because what they figure out your whole number is, I mean, it's a number of factors. It's your locality pay, it's your basic pay, and it's a few other things possibly. Put that together. That's what it is. And then when you retire, if you move, then you get to take that number with you wherever you go.
Right. I want to clarify one thing though.
Yes.
It does not always include overseas locality pay.
Right. Good distinction. Overseas locality pay is different than locality pay.
Yeah, I get that often where somebody thinks whether they go there to have their last 3 years overseas or they come back thinking that their locality pay was included, and so they'll be compensated, and their high three average will be based on their higher pay overseas. That's not always the case. And actually, I want to say a lot of the times locality pay overseas is not included, period. There are some special exceptions where it is, but it's not common. So just assume that it's not in general speaking terms.
Right. It's interesting that a simple question like this, the answer is yes, right? It just plain old yes. Yeah. But when you peel it back just a little bit more, you find that there are still nuances and things to consider and things to be thinking about and questions to ask and questions to answer that that help with planning. I mean, that really can make a big difference. I'm like that. Like the overseas locality pay is different than regular locality pay. And it's treated completely differently. And you and I have watched people go overseas and do exactly what you said, thinking that they're bumping up their high three when actually it's hurting their high three. And they have
We froze up, Kevin.
I froze up? Nope. I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah. It worked that whole time. Sorry. And I'm the one recording. And if it looks good to me, we're going to keep going, Cassie.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. Okay. We'll go to the next question. That was good. All right, next question. I have long-term care through the feds. So the federal long-term care, is that transferable? Can they take it into retirement is what they're asking. Can I, Can I retire and still have it continue on? Is it one of those benefits that even after I retire can live on?
Yes, that's the short answer. It is transferable to retirement if that's what
Yes.
you're thinking of. However, the government is going to still have their hands in it. You don't completely own that policy, so just think about that.
Wait a minute,
And
Cassie. Wait a minute. What do you mean? Okay, just to make this clear, what do you mean I don't own that
yeah,
policy? Because it's on me, right? I got it. It's mine. What do you mean I don't own it?
that's true, but the government is the owner. You are the insured. And people think, oh, well, I pay for this, and so automatically I'm, taken care of. But it's like your FEGLI coverage and things like that. Even
Right.
though they house that insurance and not house the insurance, but they use other providers, right? Like for your
Yep.
federal long-term care, you actually have a policy. Well, the government has a policy for you with John Hancock,
Right.
who is just an insurance provider. And it's the same with FEGLI. Your FEGLI is with a group MetLife policy. It's not, through the government, which I guess is a good thing. But on the flip side, you don't own the policy either. And so how good is it? I don't know. That's up to
Right.
you.
Yep.
um, so yes, it's transferable. You can take it. But here's the other thing. Your premiums for long-term care are not going to be taken out of your interim checks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dental and vision, long-term care, they're not automatically taken out of your interim pension checks. You're responsible for those premiums to pay those directly to the federal long-term care, uh, whoever, federal long-term care insurance
Yep.
plan is who administers that, right? So you're responsible for paying those premiums directly to that entity rather than that coming out of your pension. Now you can request those premiums to be taken from your pension later after your pension is finalized. But in the meantime, between the time that you start getting those interim checks, which are a portion of your pension, till the time your retirement application is finalized, you're responsible for those payments. So as long as you're not lapsed on those premiums, then you bet you can continue those into retirement.
Right. Again, it's a pretty simple answer. The answer is pretty much yes, but there's so many other things to consider.
But
I think that's a theme of this episode is easy answer, but the ramifications or the slight differences can actually make a huge difference. Again,
yep.
when I put these together, sometimes I it's not that I am putting them together with answers like that, but they just happen to come out. So look at that. Yeah, I planned it all. I'm sure I did.
Hey. All right, next one.
How is a traditional IRA different than a traditional TSP?
Well, go ahead, Kevin.
Okay,
Like you're
so
kind of
yeah, so there again, you put money in and it's supposed to grow. And depending on how you put it in, well, with a traditional, you're not taxed up front. So it's deferred. In both cases, it's deferred. So the taxes come out when you go to pull it out. When you take a disbursement, that's when you're taxed on it. So that's the same for a traditional and a Roth. However, for example, in a
you mean
traditional
traditional
TS,
IRA and traditional TSP,
say that again,
not
sorry.
Roth.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
I
yes,
said
yes,
this
yes.
is traditional IRA and traditional TSP. You mean that's the same for these
Yes.
two different types of plans, right?
Yes. Sorry. I shouldn't
Okay.
even say Roth right now because we're not talking about Roth at all, but I do that all the time.
No.
I'll switch them. Anyways, we're talking about traditional. So in this,
Yes.
one of the things that they actually changed, and actually I will mention Roth now, is that it used to not be that you could take out money and have it only come from traditional. You can do that now, which is good. So you can say, I only want my traditional TSP to come out. You can do that now, and you can do that in an IRA as well. So there are a couple similarities.
Well, right, because you're not going to have, if you have a traditional IRA, you cannot have Roth within that traditional IRA. It's just a traditional policy, because it's its own thing.
Right. So one of the differences, however, comes with RMDs. For example, in the TSP, if you get a required minimum distribution, so you reach age 72 and the IRS says, hey, we want our tax money, we're going to make you pull out some money from your TSP so we can get our taxes, is basically what it is. In a traditional IRA, you can say, hey, let's say I have 3 IRAs. I can pull them from any one that I want. I can pull it all from one. Right. I could distribute it, or I can do some things with it. Or I can choose, honestly, I can choose not to. Now, there are penalties for that, but I can choose if I want not to. Within the TSP, it's going to be forced out, and you're not going to have a say on whether to do it or how to do it. It's just, and you can't spread it out between your IRAs as well. No, it will come out of your TSP, and they're going to make you do that. It is much more rigid in that way.
Yes.
And then I would say the last thing. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
Okay. I would say the last. I would say the last thing is within a traditional TSP, and honestly, this goes for Roth as well. But I'll just point this out now. When I go to pull money out of the TSP, let's say I have 50% in my G, 50% in my C. Every dollar I pull out will come out 50 cents from each fund. And you don't have a choice. In an IRA, you can say, no, only give me 80% of my traditional money in one fund and 20% of my traditional from another. And doing that I've seen the numbers, Cassie, and I don't know if you've seen this from an IRA perspective, but if someone can do that, they can make their money last years longer. The same amount of money, but it's several. I was looking at one example recently, 7 years difference of how long someone's TSP would last them, because they're able to choose from here and here and not do it the way the TSP forces you to do it. Big difference.
Right. I think there's other things as well in the features of the different types of policies, depending on where you're located, what state you're in, things like that. Then there can be additional features to a traditional IRA that the traditional TSP doesn't offer, and vice versa, depending on your age, on the traditional TSP and traditional IRA. And that comes into account with different features and benefits, withdrawal options are different. Like you were saying, not just the different funds that you can withdraw from, but the penalties that are imposed on withdrawing that money, right? Somebody who's going to retire earlier may want to only put a portion into the traditional IRA to take advantage of those different features and benefits, but then take advantage of the penalty-free withdrawal option, depending on what that retirement looks like for you in the traditional TSP. And so we got to coordinate these things together if you're looking at both options, which most of the time there are benefits to having both as opposed one or the other.
Right.
I can't say that that's not always that's always the case. Sometimes one might be favorable over the other for a person's situation, but I don't know what that looks like for you. So I can't say, yes, this is going to be best for you, or again, I'm not a financial planner. I don't offer any of that advice. I'm not certified or licensed to give that advice, but I want you guys to be aware that you have to take a look at these from this perspective. Okay, how are these two going to be different? Why are they different? And is it going to be worth it for me? Is it advantageous to have both or one or the other? And, it's really, you got to talk to a financial planner or somebody who understands those situations and can tell you the different types of plans that are available, number one, what the different rules are for your state, number two, and the different features and benefits, and who understand the TSP and what that entails.
Yes.
Because you got to have somebody who understands that, because if they don't understand the TSP, they might tell you the IRA is completely better for you and then screw you for a couple of years.
Yep.
When you need money and access to cash, and then you're having to pay penalties on that money, an extra 10%. That could be a lot of money, depending on how much you need. So we really have to talk to somebody who understands both sides of the house there.
Yeah, and I would, just to that point right there, I have seen people say, well, yeah, I've dealt with the TSP before. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. I hate to say it. Unless they know the TSP inside, unless they have worked with many, many, many federal employees, working with a few federal employees, and I've dealt with that before, isn't enough. That isn't even, if a financial advisor, planner says, yeah, I have some federal employees as clients. No, I personally turn around and walk away, because unless they have been through this like 100+ times, unless they've done this over and over and over again, they're not going to see the nuances. They're not going to understand all the differences to do it right. And so, that's my plug for a specialist, someone who understands the rules. Because I'll give you one more, just real quickly. Within a TSP, if I take some cash out, and let's say I've retired and I take some cash out, I have to wait 30 days before I can take any more out again. And that's not the way it is in an IRA. You can take out money from your IRA several times a day if you want to. But with a TSP, it's once every 30 days. Well, what happens if you take money out, you spend it, then an emergency happens and you need money from your TSP? And then you just, they say, TSP will say, I'm sorry, that's the rule. You have to wait another 30 days. Well, that's no good. It's your money. You want to be able to control it the way you want to, not the way someone else is forcing you to. So again, that's just another rule that if someone has dealt with the TSP over and over and over again, they'll know how to work around and how to make it work. So again, that's why
it's kind of the difference between a general doctor and a specialist.
Yeah,
right.
You got it.
I go to the general doctor because my foot hurts, and they take an X-ray and say, oh, well, you need to go see the specialist because it's broken and you need cast, and we don't do that.
Exactly it.
Right.
Yep.
So it's the same situation. They'll be able to answer general questions for the TSP, and they might be able to help roll over money into a traditional IRA. Right. But they're not going to understand that maybe we need to leave some of that money in the TSP for certain reasons.
Right.
Maybe to have an emergency fund in addition to the IRA, because the IRA is going to be your income, but then we want some additional emergency fund money over here.
Exactly.
And that can grow, or whatever the case is. And so you've got to talk with somebody who understands both sides of the house, so that way they can really guide you to where you need to go and what your goals are for retirement, and be able to help you out there.
Yep. So please go to Fednobabble.com, and Cassie's going to prepare one of those reports, and we're going to have one of our advisors in the Trusted Network reach out to you and explain it all to you and answer all of your questions. All the questions that we ask on these shows, you should be able to, you are able to turn around and ask them and get answers. Yep. Please get answers for yourself. Any last words of wisdom, Cassie?
I think you said it, Kevin. Take action. Get answers for yourself. go be proactive.
There you go. Good. Thanks, Cassie. Thanks, everyone, and take care. Go take action.
To get Cassie's comprehensive report on your federal retirement benefits at no cost, no obligation, and no sales pitch, go to Fednobabble.com. While you're there, submit a question for them to answer on the show.